Hi, this is Grant Putnam, Putnam Landscaping. I'm at Faith's house on Napa Drive here in Westport. So I just wanted to kind of rehash some of the things that we spoke about. So my suggestion is to put the trash cans behind the fence in the left corner of the house. This way you can have more of a cohesive feel that's going to be really attractive along the front foundation. So yes, I would consider planting here and here, but transplanting mostly what you have to other areas of the property to get more of a nicer design. This is the curb appeal when you first pull up to your house. You want to make this look really nice. All right. So these two locations, we would need to consider adding some plants and then transplanting what you have elsewhere. The roses don't transplant well, so you have to toss those out, and they're not doing well either anyways. They all have disease, but these three roses would end up being garbage. And you've got two boxwoods. Okay, the boxwoods have leaf miner. If you look really close, there's little bubbles in the back, and that's an insect that's slowly killing them, so that has to be treated. Okay, these two boxes are about 30 inches tall. One rhododendron about 18-inch tall. Two hibiscus, pink flowering, about 6 to 7 feet tall. Two dwarf Alberta spruce, roughly 30-inch and then 3 feet tall. Two macrophylla hydrangeas, about 18-inch tall. Two rhododendrons, 3 feet by 3 feet. Two more boxwoods, roughly 24, 30-inch tall. One small holly, Coronado holly, about 2 feet wide, 1 foot tall. Two American boxwood, 4 feet by 4 feet. So these are the kind of my transplant list. The reason why I'm mentioning all this to you, because we got to think about what needs to be transplanted. All right, and then you mentioned you want to make this bed smaller. You mentioned that your neighbor was going to end up taking this boxwood here. All right, that leaves you a globosa spruce, which is also known as glow blue spruce on standard. You have one of those. There's one Andromeda that's kind of just holding on. Two more to match of the little hollies, Coronado hollies, gold thread common cypress, blue rug juniper, blue star juniper. The blue rug junipers don't transplant. 1, 2, that if you try to move it, it always dies. But this area you wanted to make a little bit smaller, but also make a nice curb appeal when you pull in the house. So that's what you have on the property. The other thing that you might consider doing, which is adding some plants along this fence. So when you pull in the house, you're not just staring at the fence. So you got 3 sections, so that's 24 feet of plantings that you might consider adding through here, and there's one little 4-foot section. So I think that's another area that would be a prime visible area that could make the house look a lot better. Okay. So as we make our way to the back here, and there's no irrigation, so everything would have to run off drip line. There's a spigot right here which you could connect to. Let's see if there's a spigot on this side as well. So there's no spigot on this side. You'd have to run a hose through here to get it to cross it. And I would say for the first season is run the hose on top of the ground. All right, because this is all concrete laid walkway. But you'd have to run, this whole area would be running on off one spigot, one drip line hose. Then eventually, I'd say you want to spray and kill whatever Pachysandra that grows up over the next 2-3 weeks. And then bring in some topsoil to get the lawn going. Make sure all the stumps are ground out. So there's another stump right there, another stump right here. You got to grind that out. Mulch around this tree so the weed whacker doesn't kill the tree over time. This tree is somewhat already rotten. Just to give you a heads up, it's got some decay in it. So you never know. Sometimes these trees hold on for a long period of time and sometimes they don't. But it's definitely a dogwood tree, and it's got something called anthracnose. That's what's all this kind of black fungus on the leaves. Not going to kill the tree, just makes it make it look as good as it possibly could. But I would definitely put a mulch ring around it because that prevents the weed whacker from damaging it. Then this all becomes lawn. We talked about putting screening along that black fence with the thought for privacy. And remember, most of your windows are almost 8 feet off the ground. So when you're spending time inside, you're entertaining people on the deck, you're looking from a much higher elevation over here. So I really think you need something that's gonna grow a minimum of 12, 15 feet tall. Ultimately, if I own the house, the goal would be to block that house completely. So when you sell the house, that's gonna pay dividends as far as having privacy from the neighbors, and that's the closest house. So again, I would actually go the green giant route. Green giant arborvitaes, they grow relatively narrow, they're deer resistant, and they'll provide you good privacy. So I would say you want to start at the corner there, which is kind of lined up with the front of your house, and then go all the way back to almost the where the branches of that hemlock tree are. So I'll measure it on Google Earth, but it's probably a good 100, 110 feet of screening along this side. Okay. Then you're gonna notice the ground is not level in here. All right, and what you don't want to do is have a bunch of water sitting in one area, because then you'll have, like, when you ever get a rain, it's gonna be really soggy, and when the lawn gets cut, you're gonna get tire tracks. So part of this job is not just adding soil, but part of it is adding the soil where you need to make sure that the water is sloping so you don't have issues with proper maintenance. Okay, so that's something else to consider. And from looking at the lay of the land here, you really don't have a great sloping lawn, because that area from here is sloping to here. This area is sloping into here, and some of it ends up down here where I'm standing. So I was thinking is if you hired us to fix the lawn here, we could end up kind of removing the humps and adding where there's like a big gully, there's like a big swale off that fence, adding some soil in there, but you're still gonna have water sitting back in your back lawn, because all the water actually drains to where I'm standing. This is kind of the wettest area right here. So just be aware of that. But what you don't want to do is, again, having these ups and downs for the new lawn you're adding. You might as well do it the right way, and you'll get better results, and it'll look better aesthetically. So a few rocks have to come out, and then we would bring a machine to kind of just remove any of the little humps or holes that are kind of in this area where the pachysandra is getting removed. The next thing we spoke about was the plantings to try to soften this fence along the back. And you've got these existing white pine trees that cast a lot of shade. So what you could do is you could try to get the lawn to extend about 6 feet further back. So to about here probably. Right? And then from here back, which is another 14 feet from here to the fence, run along this whole fence, that's where you'd end up adding plants and mulch. You could do wood chips back here too to save on cost. So that's another idea, because it's further from the house. You're not going to be standing right on top of it. But I would say larger shrubs, different varieties, considering you're going to have different amount of sunlight based on how the sun moves around the sky, and also you have certain areas that are, for example, gaps. So you have this area. I would start the plantings where the trunk of this tree is, the cedar tree. So start here, and it's about 100 feet down to the third post from the end right now, and that's the area that I would add plants. And you said you wanted to rip out the pachysandra, so same thing, we'd use our excavator to rip that out. You'd have to use some shovel to remove it around off the trunk of the trees. Okay. And like I said, I would finish the plantings at that third post right there. It's about 100 feet by, what do we say, 14, 15 feet wide. And the other planting area was here, which is an existing bed, but you have to transplant. You've got about 12 iris and 4 peonies in this area, which you could repurpose in this area. So this bed is roughly 25 feet by 12 feet in this area here. We're gonna wait to do anything with the deck because you're gonna end up replacing that in the future. So I'd wait to do anything else. So I think that's the priorities to start with, and then you can take it from there. Talk to you soon. Thanks.